Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with something that is absolutely incredible. We have ourselves a brand new Aulita Heroes figure, and not just one, we actually have quite a few, but we're beginning with this one because it's one that I'm extremely excited about. We have a Ceratosaurus now in the line, and if you are familiar with me, I've probably raved over the years quite a few different times about how much I love Ceratosaurus, so having a Ceratosaurus in the Aulita Heroes line is extremely exciting, not to mention having this kind of vintage looking version makes it twice as exciting. So without further ado, let's jump straight to a closer look and we'll check it out from there. So, starting up here at the head sculpt of our Ceratosaurus, you can see straight away Aulita Heroes has given this a very cool, very stylized look, as they always have with their dinosaurs. They always have a bit of a vintage look, but also a very stylized, very Aulita Heroes look, which is something I am very fond of, making them have almost like an 80s style movie monster sort of look to them. It's always the feeling that I get from the Aulita Heroes brand, and this Ceratosaurus screams that look. You can see we definitely have some very nice paintwork to this one, as well as you can see quite a bit of variations of like blacks and purples and even like some greenish tones and stuff down here, as well as browns and gold, which is pretty interesting to have gold up here on the crests for our Ceratosaurus, which is actually really cool, and you can see that has a bit of a satin sort of a shine to it. But as per usual, the coloration and paintwork applied is really nice and very highly detailed, and you can see again it's also very lifelike. There's lots of variation of color, super smooth transitions back and forth. It looks absolutely awesome. The skin texture is nicely done as well, especially as you let the light kind of hit it. You can see again that there is some very nice fine texturing to the head of the dinosaur. As per usual, these dinosaurs are always very much so articulated. You've got a little spot of articulation right here in the head, but you can also, of course, articulate the jaw. And once you go inside the mouth, you can see all of the teeth sculpted out in there on both the upper and lower jaws. And they always have this look where they just look like almost kind of like a gritty look and feel to the inside of the mouth and the way the teeth appear. That's something that also kind of screams like 1980s monster movie style dinosaur, I think. But you can see the paintwork is like a mixture of like orangish, yellowish, and white tones in there. We can also see the tongue sculpted out on the inside of the mouth and given variation of color to that, as well as we've got like some reddish tones and stuff for the inside of the mouth as you move through. It all looks super cool. And of course the jaw articulates with both the upper and lower jaws sort of articulating together, which you can see. We can also see the eye painted in there very nicely. Looks like we've got like an orange or an orangish brown sort of tone, and then a black and a white. As we begin to move up here into the top of the Ceratosaurus, you can see a line of ridges following along the back of the neck. You can also see as we lead down, we actually have the Aulita Heroes logo here. They always do that, where they almost kind of like place the logo somewhere on the figure, basically to let you know. It's almost kind of like the old school Jurassic Park stamp, but rather than a stamp, it's actually sculpted into the models. I think that's really fun as well, especially if you look at it from the side, you actually don't even notice it. But as you move down here along the side of the neck, you see more of the variations of purples, and we definitely have quite a few different variations of purples included in there. And as you look here at the underside of the neck, you can see quite a bit of variation of color, as well as really nice shading here with a darker tone. Again, all of the paintwork is extremely smooth as far as the application goes. You do have articulation as you move down. You can articulate the neck up and down. You can also swivel a little bit, so you can give it that kind of like head tilt, that curious sort of head tilt if that's what you want to do. And the neck also goes up and down as well, so you do have some decent mobility in the neck for the dinosaur. I love that you can even see what looks to be like veins here on the side of the neck of the Ceratosaurus moving down, and you've got tons of variation of color. Like, I love the way they paint their figures, where you could just see so much variation of color, really subtle differences. And as you move back, you can see all sorts of really nice greenish tones popping up, as well as kind of like a black speckling that you'll see through the course of the figure. It's really, really neat. As you lead down, you do have arm articulation, which can go forward and back. pretty darn nicely, actually. It can go back pretty far. It can also sort of wiggle a little bit just to give you a little bit more as far as like the ability to kind of come out away from the body just a hair. And then as you move down through the course of the arms, you've got the muscle definition. Again, tons of variation of color. We can see the elbow back there, the wrist, and then as you lead down into the hands of the Ceratosaurus, they as well look pretty cool. We kind of darken to a black coloration before leading out into the nails, and the nails do have a goldish sort of a tone with a nice shine to it, which is pretty cool. As you move back up, you again have more ridges following along the back of the dinosaur. They've definitely increased in size at this point, and you can see there is a darker tone kind of following along the spinal column. And then we lead down, we've got more of the purplish tones, which are actually really quite vibrant. I really quite like that coloration on this figure. As you move down a little bit further, you can see the muscle definition of the thigh. You can also see that we have a lighter tone moving along the back of the thigh and calf. The musculature is very impressive, especially in that calf muscle right there, but also in the thigh. As you move down, you've got all sorts of wrinkling in the skin leading into the knee. And then as we continue to move down further, you can see many different articulated joints leading the entire way down into the foot sculpt. And you can see the foot is also very nicely sculpted, as we've got a very nice dark greenish tone leading down into the foot. And then you can also see that we have, again, the nails painted with that goldish tone. Articulation wise, the legs are one of the most articulated areas. You can see we can move the leg forward and back, which it can articulate really nicely. Like, it can really go quite far forward, which is definitely a plus. And if I can hold it in a position, there you go, you can see you can articulate the knee. But what's cool is it actually articulates up here as well on this part of the knee, and then also below the knee. So you've got numerous areas of articulation right there. And then as you lead down, you've got another spot right here which can articulate, and these areas I believe can swivel. Yes, definitely can swivel. This one could if this area of the skin wasn't kind of stopping it. But then as you lead down even further, you do have, of course, another spot right here which can go forward and back, also swivel, which is nice. And then as you lead down even further, you can see you actually have articulation as you get near the tips of the toes, and you can see basically where the claws are. You can articulate those down. Even back here, you can do that, which is nice because it'll help you also if you have any, stability issues, which this one seems to be standing really nicely. You can kind of dig the claws down into the ground to help it stand, which is definitely a plus. As you move up here, you see the ridges again continue to move along, but start to decrease as you lead out into the tail. And then as you lead out, you can basically see they're gone as you head down into this area of the tail leading out there toward the tip, which there's a very nice curve to the tip. You can see it ends in a very nice dark grayish tone. And then the underside as well has all sorts of color. Look at the colors on this. I'm always so unbelievably impressed by the paintwork of the Aulita Heroes brand. It is crazy how much coloration you see on these Aulita Heroes figures. You can even see like all sorts of pinkish tones and stuff. And of course, as you move up, you've got articulation in the tail right here, up, down, left, right. You've got another spot right here, again, up, down, left, right, and then another spot out here, up, down, left, right, and that allows you to kind of articulate the tail and pose it pretty much whatever way you would like, which is definitely nice. You can, of course, go down and then up. Well, I said that backwards, up and then down. But once we turn the figure around, of course, you're going to see pretty much the same thing over here because, again, the figure is basically a fully posable version of the Ceratosaurus. So you're really not going to see much difference on one side compared to the other, but it looks absolutely awesome from both sides. Definitely one of the coolest Aulita Heroes figures to come so far. I also wanted to let you know that your figure will come with this very cool small card, which basically has the Aulita Heroes logo right there, and then a nice shot here of the skull of our Ceratosaurus, and you can see that it matches up quite nicely to what we do see on our dinosaur. As far as a size goes, the newest Aulita Heroes figures, when they had kind of advertised these on their social media, stated that these were very large. Well, that is no exaggeration, just a hair under 17 inches or around 43 centimeters in length. And then for a height, just a hair again under 9.5 inches or right around 24, maybe a little bit over 24 centimeters. For a size comparison, There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day human being next to our Aulita Heroes Ceratosaurus. And as you can see, this figure drastically outsizes everything that is here standing next to it, showing you that this is definitely one very large Ceratosaurus. As far as size comparisons go, I'm almost scratching my head at this point trying to figure out what might compare well with this, so I brought in a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus to kind of help to give you an idea of a size. There really aren't very many figures like this. Definitely not when it comes to like retrosaurs and stuff like that. There just aren't that many retrosaurs out there, but obviously you can see that this Ceratosaurus again is quite a bit larger than both of these figures standing next to it. And to continue to give you an idea of the size, here is a Mattel T-Rex. This is the Epic Roarin' T-Rex next to the Ceratosaurus, which you can very clearly see is a little bit bigger, but I think this should also help to give you a little bit of an appreciation for the size of this very large Ceratosaurus. And then here we have a comparison that I think is definitely sure to impress, as we have the original version of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the very first Aulita Heroes figure that I ever reviewed, next to this Ceratosaurus. And as you can see, that Ceratosaurus is massive next to that T-Rex. So this brand new Aulita Heroes articulated Ceratosaurus is absolutely epic in the best way possible. I love this figure. Everything about it is just so appealing to me. If you are a fan of old school style dinosaurs, vintage style dinosaurs, this is a must-have, no doubt about it. Especially if you are a fan of old school dinosaurs and articulated figures, then you really want to get this in your hands, because again, sculpt wise, it is super nicely done. There's incredibly nice fine detail through the course of the entire figure, definitely as highly detailed as I think you could find, especially for an old school, again, vintage style dinosaur, especially for an old school style Ceratosaurus, something you really don't see very often. But on top of that, it is filled with very impressive paintwork from head to tail. The coloration on this is mind-blowing, and I feel like you really need to see it in person to even appreciate it more, because there's just so many very slight, subtle variations of color added to the figure that it will absolutely blow your mind in person. I also really quite like the color scheme they've chosen for it. I think it's very nice and naturalistic, and also has that kind of old school look and feel, which is a plus. And on top of that, you've got some very nice articulation through the course of the entire figure, which helps to allow lots of very cool posability. Definitely some really nice display options when it comes to throwing this beautiful Ceratosaurus up on your shelf. So undoubtedly an awesome choice, an awesome model from Aulita Heroes. If you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that, and of course a link to the social media accounts in general for Aulita Heroes, where you can follow them and stay up to date on everything they are releasing, and of course contact them there to inquire further about purchasing these on top of everything. And then again, you can actually purchase, I believe, from their Etsy shop. So make sure you do that. Definitely pick this up, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.